You're adorable.
Yeah, I think that's enough.
It is.
I have that video forever.
Oh, do you really?
Yeah, I do.
But I know,
That's a great video too.
Have fun debating.
Okay, so Augie is starting. Mason, thank you again for doing this.
Yeah.
Instagram.
Okay, Caitlin, can I get you to switch to your right?
There's like 6 degrees. And we go, you are
You don't
not
like that?
in 8th grade.
That's just
I'm 14.
I was like,
No, you're 20.
All right. Augie, you have 2 minutes. You may begin.
Alright, so the issue is that the war between Ukraine and Russia and whether or not the US should get involved with it. And we think the US should help our ally in war. We've done extensive research on this topic, which makes our arguments credible. And some of the major points we would like to talk about are they're our ally, which means we kind of need to help them. Russia will continue to attack other countries if we don't step in and go on a power surge like we've seen in the past. And many people from the U.S. believe that helping Ukraine, or that we should do more for Ukraine than we're doing now in the future.
Alright, so do you really want World War III? I asked all of you that today. And obvious answer is no. That's why the United States should not get involved or engage in war with Russia and Ukraine. We have established credibility in this topic from extensive research on why the U.S. should not join this war, along with being heavily involved in politics. Also, 72% of Americans think we should not engage in this war, according to the Washington Post. In perspective, if we get into this war, the consequences are unbearable, with the possibilities of a nuclear war breaking out, NATO being affected, or we can see drastic effects of the U.S. economy. One thing is, with money being wasted, this includes our taxes and most importantly the United States debt. According to debt.org, our U.S. debt has increasingly gone up every time in war such as World War II, the Korean War, and Vietnam. If we keep on contributing to U.S. debt, this will affect Americans in a negative way, such as inflation increase and high taxes. Also, if we get involved, we have seen the consequences of American gas prices have been increasing. According to Forbes.com, gas prices will remain high and keep increasing as long as Russia is still aggressive and the U.S. gets involved.
1 minute with your partner.
You know.
Okay, go ahead, Augie and Mason.
So you said like your biggest problem was starting a nuclear war, like World War III. But I mean, if you don't stop them now and contain them while we're more powerful, they're going to keep just going to surrounding countries, and World War III is going to happen anyway. So why not attack them now when we're more powerful, rather than, who knows, a few months from now when they have other countries and they're more powerful than they are now.
So, to a New York Times article about the nuclear war, according to the United Nations Secretary Antonio Guterres, he stated, although we might be the most powerful nation out there right now, although Vladimir Putin is one problem that still remains today, and the prospect of nuclear conflict is once unthinkable, and it's still a possibility, because Joe Biden, if he gives into public pressure, where he often does, we cannot step down to a no-fly zone, because if that happens, all hell will break loose, and we'll see bomb after bomb, and we all know how Russia's nuclear power is today compared to the U.S. They are more powerful than the United States right now. One bomb, we're done. And then also back to what you said, who was the source about when you said all Americans think that we should help Ukraine and be involved? because according to the Washington Post, 72% of Americans think we should not be involved.
I found a post. According to a study by Pew Research Center, 42% of Americans think the United States is not providing enough help. 32% think we're doing the right amount, and only 7% think we're doing too much, and 19% are not sure. So, I mean, it's basically just flipped, like, information. 72% says that we're not doing enough, or that we're not, or that we should do more, so. That's what I found.
Or then, do you guys think we should be involved right now because we're alliances? Although we have the North American Trade Organization where we should not be involved until.
Sorry. Nate, go ahead.
Okay, so one major reason why the United States should help Ukraine against Russia is because they're one of our allies. The United States and Ukraine have had diplomatic relations with each other since 1991, meaning they have a good relationship. We do not help Ukraine. It does not send a good message to the rest of our allies. According to an article written on April 16th by Politico.edu, Germany's finance minister Christian Lindner says Germany will be boosting their defensive fund to $2 billion, most of which will go to Ukraine. Germany, an ally of the United States, is providing this much support. Our allies are helping out Ukraine, so the United States needs to do more and help to stay involved. Another reason why the United States should help Ukraine is because the American citizens don't think we are doing enough to help Ukraine. Like Augie mentioned before, the study taken in March by Pew Research Center stated 42% of Americans think the United States is not providing enough help. 32 think we are doing the right amount, 7 think we need to do more, and 19 are not sure. A majority of our citizens think we need to provide more help for Ukraine, so the government should do everything in their power to help them out. According to a study by voanews.com, 78% of Americans approved of allowing up to 100,000 Ukrainian refugees into the United States. This is the highest level of American public support for refugees since 1939. And another study conducted on April 29th by voanews.com shows that 73% of Americans support the administration to supply Ukraine with weapons. As you can see, a majority of the American people support us in helping Ukraine, so the United States should keep providing more support in the Russian-Ukraine conflict. To summarize, the United States should help Ukraine because we need to show our allies that we are committed to helping Ukraine as much as they are, and we need to support the American citizens and show them we are invested in protecting Ukraine.
Alright, so although we may feel sympathetic towards Ukraine people, we need to realize that our American lives come first, and we cannot do that if we get involved in this war. So if we were to deepen our military involvement into Russia, we can see severe consequences of a direct confrontation between NATO and Russia, which could lead to ultimately a huge war. If we were engaged in this war, these nations, we could face something like the Cold War, like we did from 1947 to 1991. And although the Soviet Union's gone, they still have all their nuclear weapons, and they have actually improved their nuclear weapons. So if Russia were to engage in nuclear war, like Putin has stated, this will lead to instant deaths, environmental destruction, famine, and more deaths as the radiation would spread. It could mean the end of basically of like life as we know today if there were a nuclear war to begin. Along with that, the last time the U.S. got involved in a war that we didn't have to do was the Vietnam War, where we lost nearly 60,000 men. So that would be pretty similar to this war. That would be another 60,000 lives we would not have to lose.
One minute with your partner. Okay, Nate and Cal.
I'll start.
Yeah, so when you were talking about Ukraine being one of our bigger allies, how would you like say they're like a big ally to us?
So I just say because we've had diplomatic relations since 1991 with them, they've helped offer us assistance. So I think that and the fact that other NATO allies are supporting them, we should show our fellow allies that we're also going to support them and be there for them.
Yeah, but so one thing that we notice about Ukraine is that we don't really even have that big of a relationship with them. Like they've helped us a little bit, but like as far as like important things like trade, the only thing that we get from them is pig iron. So it's like they're really not one of our biggest allies.
Yeah, I also think that, but I think it's just like a point where we have to stop the Russian army there before they get more powerful. Just because on the Ukraine's western border, there's like 3 or 4 NATO countries, and if Russia spreads that far over, they're able to be right next to them, just being able to set up military bases and striking distance. And with how unpredictable President Putin is, you don't know what's going to happen. Like he could instantly invade them, and then they're already more powerful. So.
Well, yeah, if he is unpredictable, if we were to get involved right now before they've even touched NATO, he could just drop some nukes on us, and that'd be.
But according to an article written by CNBC News, President Biden has already authorized an $800 million security package to be sent to Ukraine, and this was on April 21st. And then according to an article written by Al Jazeera, which is owned by the Qatar government, on May 6th, the U.S. sent another $150 million package of military aid to Ukraine. And although this was met by threats from Putin, nothing really has come from it. So I think if you let it get too far and the U.S. isn't helping contain Russia and Ukraine, if they take over, then there's just sooner or later, if they get to the NATO countries, if the U.S. doesn't help out, they can continue to spread and get more powerful.
Yeah, and what's funny with that, with the Algeria website, I also found something from them that stated that Ukraine, some of their army members are actually believe in Nazism.
2 minutes, reminder.
It's actually pretty entertaining. That's kind of cute. I need to form your biscuits. I know, and then I go downstairs and one of those 6 more biscuits that just kept in our carry it on. I lost them all because I keep them under my bed. No, I'm off 5 minutes. 2 months later.
Yeah.
We don't got nothing until that.
She'll never bring back my shorts. Didn't even know she had them. Like, I thought they were just going for me. And I got $5. That was a good day. That was a good day. I'm excited for this crossover. Hey, have you ever been doing this? Not? Is it? I don't want to go to math because I know we're going to learn too much. And that's just more stuff that's stressful. I keep falling asleep. And then I'll be writing and I'm like it's so boring.
Augie, go ahead.
Alright, so basically you guys are just worried about a nuclear war, and I mean it's gonna happen regardless. Sooner or later something's gonna happen between all these countries, and a nuke's gonna get dropped somewhere, someplace. It's unavoidable. And right now, from a study by BusinessInsider.com, America's budget is $601 billion, while Russia's is only $84.5 billion. So there's a pretty big gap between the two, and we have a lot to work with when it comes to buying things for our military to make us stronger when we get in the fight with Russia. And I just think we need to get it over with and done with before like we've been talking about, they get on a power surge and it's too late for us and the rest of the NATO allies to do anything about it.
Mason?
Okay, so although, as you talked about earlier, we've given financial aid to Russia, it has many disadvantages, such as political leaders taking the money for their own political gain. A very big example of this is President Zelensky of Ukraine. If we're giving money to him, and he's being corrupt with it for his own personal gain, such as relief. In 2016, according to The Guardian, he used the relief given from the United States for his own private companies, and this is all reported once again by The Guardian, because we signed off on a $40 billion relief deal on something we are not involved in right now. Just imagine if we're getting into war, what these costs will get up to, especially with the corrupt Ukrainian president, along with Joe Biden's son, Hunter Biden, having suspicious business deals with Ukraine. Why are we giving money to people that are just blowing money all over the place? Because, I mean, if Hunter Biden, Joe Biden's son's making money off Ukraine, if Zelensky's taking the U.S. money and our tax money, and our own personal economy money, why are we getting involved with a corrupt country, worried about something that we're not even involved in? Why should we lose lives, etc.?
Okay, all four of you.
Okay, so you talked about President Zelensky. Is there anything more recent, like during the Ukrainian fights of us? Because you said in 2016, so I'm just wondering if there's anything more recent about him being corrupt.
I can look into that, but most recently in 2019, on the top of my head, from a Fox News article reported, there was reporting about him and Hunter Biden meeting about the private company and blowing money together and snorting cocaine. So if you want to get into that part of it, but obviously that doesn't involve necessarily Russia and Ukraine right now with the U.S., but it just shows the corruption that goes on with the politics.
Yeah, because I was thinking, there's an article written by Time News on March 7th, and it states that Zelensky not only rallied his own people to defend the nation, but inspired them by like helping them and just staying in the fight. So I think they said that he galvanized the world's democracies in ways that seem unthinkable just a week before. So he may have been like a little corrupt, or this article is claiming he was corrupt, but the way he was able to like inspire his nation, which like gained world support, I think shows that he did a pretty good job, even if there's past allegations that he was corrupt. So I think
To prove it, the fact that he's corrupt. I mean, anybody can look good when they speak. Look at Obama.
but he's also like, he inspired other people to help him. So he's gotten like world support. And I don't know if another president does that. Then also, I have a question for Cal. Do you know how many of those Russian, or like how many Nazis there were in the Ukrainian army?
Yeah, so it says there's a special segment of their army, and it's known as the Azov platoon, and basically that whole group of soldiers in their army is made up of Nazi members.
Okay, because there was an article by iNews.com that states there are less than 1,000 Azov or neo-Nazi members in Ukraine. So my point is, just because there's 1,000 Nazis in Ukraine doesn't mean the United States should stop helping the tens of millions of innocent Ukrainian citizens who are being brutally attacked by the Russians. So I think that just because there's a small amount of bad people, you can't stop helping the large amount of good people.
Now, if we want to talk about the U.S. economy, that's also another consequence of this war. As I stated earlier, do you want your inflation going up? Do you want your taxes going up? No, because that goes up, you're spending more money, cost of living goes up, you can't afford what you have to pay for. I mean, look right now, barely anybody can pay for gas in parts of California, downtown Chicago, etc. Is that something that we want to keep on seeing go up? Because, I mean, according to CNBC, last week they said by Memorial Day we're going to be paying $5 a gallon for gas by Memorial Day because of the Russia and Ukraine war. And look, now we have a baby formula shortage. How the heck does that happen? Because, I mean, we haven't had this problem ever.
It's always gonna happen. You can't stop it. It's gonna go.
2 minutes with your partner.
Sorry.
Yeah, this is
Oh, this is when she's just gonna be sitting on What are you gonna say back? Yeah, it doesn't apply to mine. I know, literally. Well, mine takes abusive kids out of their houses, so.
Yeah.
Abusive kids, the other way around. What? Okay. Cool with me? No, just make you retired. Oh, no. It was like 9 o'clock, that's when I was like looking at my dog. Is that sociology thing using it?
I think he said he said, well, in the email, he said.
I literally just printed out my
Yeah, I feel like that's what
We're really just stay up and then it'll go somewhat arrow shaped.
I mean, that would suit.
All right. Nate, go ahead.
To conclude, the United States needs to be and stay involved in the Ukraine-Russia conflict. They need to stay involved in this conflict in order to help the innocent people of Ukraine and help them fight against Russia. We also need to support Ukraine because the American citizens want us to support them, and the government should honor their support. We need to keep this war in Ukraine and eliminate any risk of Russia invading any of our NATO allies to prevent any further or worse war. According to an article written on March 14th by AS News, it states, the possibility of the war in Ukraine spilling over into a NATO member nation got dangerously close on Sunday when a barrage of Russian missiles hit a Ukrainian military base just miles from the border with Poland. As you can see from this source, Russia does not care about NATO, even after numerous attempts of President Biden warning President Putin about the consequences of invading their NATO territory. Russia will do anything they have in order to get what they want, and it is clear that the United States needs to be involved in the Russian-Ukraine conflict to contain the Russian army and prevent even worse damage.
Yeah.
So, the reason we should not get involved in this war is if we keep engaging into the Ukraine and Russian war, we'll see consequences such as inflation rising, gas prices up, supply shortages, expanding and continuing, along with NATO countries not being involved or attacked yet, resulting for us. So there's really no reason for us to get involved yet. Once, like we stated earlier, 72% of Americans do not want to be involved in a war where America has no reason to be in it. Also, Vladimir Putin stated on May 20th he will not go after NATO countries unless Biden invades Russia, according to Fox News.
You can clap.
Here's a call.
Okay, no, you have to stay because we have to talk. Okay, thoughts from everyone? Connor?
I think both sides did a really good job of adding a lot of sources throughout to provide evidence, and then I think the no side did good with like bringing in the tax increases and the gas prices, which kind of relate to everybody here, so it helps bring in the audience.
I was very impressed with the amount of sources as well on both sides. Actually, like the first round, you didn't have any, and then they like refuted everything with sources, but then you guys started bringing in your sources. So like they had kind of the first strike with it, but then you guys came back really well. Lexi?
I have a question for the no side. How does the shortage of baby formula have to do with the war? Because from what I know, just 2 factories burned down. So I don't get how that would be an effect
And there was
of
a
the war.
recall. We know there was a recall of formula.
Calvin, you want this one?
Well, I think, I'm sure Mason's probably trying to give an example that when something like bad happens, there's a shortage of something. So like if a war were to happen, it might not necessarily be baby formula, but there's like other stuff that would be short of, like we would like not have as much because we're putting more of our focus on the war and not like economy and production lines.
I actually missed the whole thing about baby formula. I don't know how I did. That probably wasn't the best example, but just because the circumstances had nothing to do with that. but it makes sense that you're saying, it's true, if we're in a war, production is like, yeah, and we just are like, I think, are we still in a pandemic, sorta, kinda? I guess we are, so there's that too. Maggie?
I thought both sides did really good at asking questions, and then when they were asked a question, did a really good job at rebutting the questions.
I agree, almost all of it was back and forth, and you guys had your sources, and it was a very solid debate. And there were very good arguments to be made on both sides. Tylee and then Lydia.
Just to go off of that, like, I think Nate had like a really good like presence and stuff, like you had your stuff down, and like when someone like from the no side would say something, like you automatically had something to come back with the sources, so I thought that was good.
Yeah, I liked how the guy, like the no side kept bringing up like the Nazis, but then Nate, how you kind of combated that with, there's only a select few, like amount of bad people, because no matter where you are, there's always gonna be bad people, and just those 1,000 people aren't gonna make a difference.
We have a Nazi party in the United States, so. And there's a KKK, I mean, there's people here too. Carly and then Ellie.
I like how they were all very confident and like fully engaged in the discussion.
I agree. I think you guys were really well versed in this. It was a good one to record too, because, you know, it's so timely and you just had a lot of information. So, any other thoughts?
I
Oh,
thought
yeah.
you guys were very organized, like it didn't take you like time to like find stuff in your notes, you just kind of picked it up and rolled with it, which was very good.
All right, thanks guys.
Go.